Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are here for two public hearings. Before we get started, I am calling the meeting to order. I would like us to introduce ourselves, since there's many faces here that may not know us all. So my name is Mary Ann Ashley. I'm town supervisor. Go this way.
I'm Bob Sanamore, town council member. John Kyle, town council member. Eric Gustafson, town. I'm Bill Buchanan, Leadership Council.
Heidi Smith, town clerk.
Jim Smith, town council.
Randy Brown, town council.
Okay, thank you. I'm calling the first public hearing to order. It is 6 p.m. Today's date is October 10th, Tuesday of 2023. I will read the notice, and then if you would like to say something to the board, we're here to listen. So we'll have the first public hearing, and then I'll close that one, and then we'll go into the second public hearing, and then we'll close out. Okay, we are here to listen. We ask that you go to the podium, identify yourself, limit your comments to 3 minutes. So this gives everybody an opportunity to speak. Their concerns, comments. It's not a time for back and forth. We are here to listen tonight. Okay? Okay. Notice is hereby given by the town board of the town of Canton that pursuant to the provisions of the town law of the state of New York, a public hearing will be held at 6 p.m. on the 10th day of October 2023 at the Canton Town Hall, 60 Main Street, Canton, New York, to consider adoption of a local law entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 9, Planning Board of the Town Code. This proposed local law would repeal and replace the existing Chapter 9 of the Town of Canton Code. A complete copy of the draft law has been available for public inspection on the town's website and in the clerk's office. So notice is hereby further given that all interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard. Written comments will also be accepted by the town clerk until no later than 3 p.m. on October 10th. So I'm opening this public hearing on this particular law. Are there any comments? And if when you do go to the podium, if you could speak up, the acoustics in here, we need to be able to have the people on Zoom hear us as well.
Good evening. I was just curious as to why this name, Margaret Mouse, 33 James Road. I was just curious as to why this changing the number of alternates happened to come up at this time. And it wasn't a topic at the planning board meeting. But I also wanted to suggest that if you're making changes right now, that right now alternates, the way it stands is the only time you can use an alternate is if a regular board member has a conflict of interest. And if you want to use an alternate for another reason, which has been used, although the only reason you can use one is for conflict of interest. It says that for alternates to fill in for sick or absent members, the local government must pass a local law superseding and amending the state law that would allow, if someone was on vacation and you wanted to use an alternate to make your quorum, but just to make a quorum is not the way it stands in the law right now. So I'm just suggesting that maybe at this time you might want to take a look.
Okay. Yep. Would you like to submit that for the record? You can hand it to Heidi. Thank you. Anyone else public comment on this particular law? Proposed law?
Good evening. My name is Andrea Huber, and I am a landowner that is affected by this new zoning law. As a landowner,
Oh, excuse me, Andrea, this is for the public hearing for this particular, the first public hearing?
yes,
Okay. So it has to do with the amending chapter 9 of the planning board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But that's
I'll be back then.
okay. Did you have your hand up? Okay. Andrew, you'll be the first one when this was, okay? Okay.
Toby Irvin, Irish Settlement Road, Canton. I have two comments. The first concerns, whoops, got my pages out of order here, 9.2C. You phrase reasons why there should be training for the planning board, and then you say that there's no decision of the planning board shall be voided or declared invalid because of a failure to comply with training. In other words, you've made training largely irrelevant. You can go ahead and make decisions without complying with the other parts of the training and updating of the people. So I would question the wording of that and why it's even necessary. The second is, I'm pleased to see that the functions in paragraph 9.4 are beginning to be enumerated. My question and comment here is, as you go forward, how do you plan to change and update that section? Is it going to have to be a revised law? There's no provision in this planning document for updating the list of responsibilities. So my question is, how do you go forward and make changes? That list is not going to be permanent or always valid. And then with respect to that, assigning duties to the planning board, I think it should be made clearer in specific language that is understandable by the layperson, which items you are declaring they can make decisions upon and which items they are merely recommending. We had an instance recently where making a decision was largely based on incomplete information, and the decision should have been challenged rather than passed over, in my opinion. So I'd like a little more clarity in 9.4 about decision-making versus recommendations or discussion. Thanks.
Any other comment on this proposal? Then I am asking for a motion to close this public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed at 6:08 p.m. I am now opening public hearing number 2. Well, we did advertise it for 6:15. So you think that would be a problem if we open it now, or should we wait till 6:15? Okay, then we'll wait till 6:15 and we'll open her again.
So you're just.
It says it's recording in the corner.
Is that recording?
Yeah.
Okay, it is now 6:15 and I am calling the second public hearing to order. Again, today is October 10th of 2023. Notice is hereby given by the town board of the town of Canton that pursuant to provisions of town law of the state of New York, a public hearing will be held at 6:15 on the 10th day of October 2023 at the Canton Town Hall, 60 Main Street, Canton, New York, to consider the adoption of a local law entitled Local Law Amending the Town Zoning Law and Other Land Use Laws. This proposed local zoning law would repeal and replace the existing zoning law and zoning map of chapter 70 of the town of Canton Code and repeal local law number 3 of 2019, solar energy facilities of the town of Canton Code. The town board determined that this local law would have no significant environmental impacts pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. A complete copy of the proposed local law has been available for public inspection at the town clerk's office and on the town's website. Now, notice is hereby further given that all interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard, and written comments will be accepted by the town clerk until no later than 3 p.m. on October 10th. So again, if you'd like to speak to us, we're here to listen. It's not a back and forth time. We are taking your comments as part of the record to be considered at a later time. So with that being said, I ask that you go to the podium. And Andrea, if you'd like to be the first one, you're more than welcome. So again, if you could keep it under 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll try.
And just so everybody will have an opportunity, and then if you want to come back up and have something different to say, that's fine too.
Sure.
Okay.
Good evening again. As I already stated earlier, my name is Andrea Huber, and I'm a landowner that is affected by this new zoning. As a landowner who owns parcels, about 450 acres, contemplated for a zoning change, why was no written notice provided to me directly describing the proposed change with an explanation for the need to make such changes? As a landowner of an affected change, I would like to have been notified in advance, as I would like to understand the town's justification and need for the zoning change and have an opportunity to talk with the town as the code was being drafted. As a landowner in this community, I have plans for the use of my property, which were within the compliance of the existing zoning law that the proposed law will restrict. These are excess restrictions and infringe on my rights as a landowner. The zoning law and the town's comprehensive plan both state the development of renewable energy is a priority for the town. Why then does the proposed zoning law include so many additional restrictions to the Ridge Road solar project that has been in development in the area for several years? The proposed zoning law includes a restriction on solar development in any fields that has drainage tiles installed. We see this as a field tile penalty on the landowners whom would be blocked by the town's code because tile may have been installed historically, or they may have had the ability and interest to install tile to support agriculture operations. Additionally, the Ridge Road project has detailed field tile mitigation plan and has committed to develop the project in accordance with the State Department of Agriculture and Markets. The Village of Canton's own solar array was developed in an existing commercial zone and in compliance with permittable land use in the current code. However, new zoning law is revised to restrict solar development in the commercial zone and even go so far as to remove specifically the village solar array parcel from the commercial zone while leaving the surrounding parcels as commercial. Is the revised zoning law accommodation the village renewable project, is the revised zoning law accommodating the village renewable projects while applying further restriction to private projects? Addition, I would like to say, after the last board meeting that my husband and I attended, Mr. Smith assured us that this new zoning law is not affecting us and the EDF solar project. He even used the word grandfathered in. To all the board members, with all due respect, do not vote on the new zoning law as it is proposed. Instead, postpone it. Please listen to the concerns of the landowners that are affected by the new law. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to submit that to the record to the church?
I'm sorry.
Would you like to submit your statement?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so you can hand it, you can hand it to. Thank you, Andrea.
No, I get it.
Sorry. Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, okay.
Good evening. I'm Jonathan Gelder, representative of EDF Renewables and the Rich Road Solar Project. Prepared my remarks in advance, only need 5 minutes. The town's time zoning change proposal will significantly impact our project. We feel it's imperative to express our concern to the law because many in the town and community stand to benefit significantly from the project, with taxes, jobs, and our overall investment in the community, like our community fund program. Not to mention the significant climate benefits associated with 240 megawatts of clean renewable electricity generation. The zoning changes proposed by the town jeopardize these benefits. We believe in open dialogue and collaboration with every community where we engage in development of our projects. For instance, the Rich Road Solar Project's been meeting with representatives of this town and the community as well since 2019, and we've been conducted up to a half dozen meetings last year alone to review, discuss, and modify the project in an effort to address feedback we received as we design the overall layout, prepared the studies and materials required to file an application to the state as required by law for the project. It was particularly important to us that we consider the application the existing zoning code to the project. As I'm sure you're aware, the project team has worked tirelessly to balance potential environmental impacts with the reasonable compliance to the town's requirements. Our workshops have given us great insight to the priorities of the town members and its community, as well as providing feedback and guidance in moving the project forward with those priorities in mind. We thank those representatives for their time and effort meeting with us and helping to craft this project in a vision that fits the town's needs. But at this late stage, the new zoning proposal signals this time spent by community members and town leaders was wasted, as it ignores these discussions and now proposes those new regulations and provisions that have never been discussed previously over the 4 years of engagement between EDF and the town. We use the feedback, guidance, and understanding gained from those workshops and hosted several public meetings and developed and submitted our siting permit application to the State Office of Renewable Energy Siting. We also communicated commitments that have been incorporated into the project to the general community, such as focused stakeholder groups, such as like the town's sustainability committee and the county ag farmland protection board, for example. These layouts that have been proposed were crafted with direct input from our discussions and show the minimization of environmental impacts to the greatest extent practicable. The town has been working on these zoning changes for the last 4 years, or since around 2019, when the project was first coordinating with the town. To our dismay, we were never notified of these potential zoning changes in any of our correspondences with the town. In our view, the new proposal includes many changes that could unravel most, if not all, the common ground and accommodations we've collaboratively worked to achieve by applying new restrictions and constraints that have not been identified previously. Now, we presented our concerns in the last public hearing on this topic, and the town responded by pointing out that ORES has the ability to waive town laws. Thus, the proposed zoning law is not a concern for the project. We feel it's an incorrect position. To clarify for the town, while ORES does have the ability to waive unreasonably burdensome laws, as understood, enacting legislation that changes potential waivers needed or their justification at this time is not productive and will have an impact on the project. We would need waivers of approximately 12 to 14 provisions in the new law, too many for me to list specifically, and identified in a separate comment letter submitted to the board directly before this meeting. The town will be asked to opine on each and every waiver request, clarification, or modification the project will need to submit in order to maintain the current basis of the project as proposed and retain the progress from the results of our past collaborative efforts with the town. Please take the time to review that letter for a detailed understanding of our concerns. As we communicated before in June, the passing of this proposed law without consideration for the advanced stage of our project and recognition of significant progress has been made in accommodating the town's priorities thus far has the potential to waste the time and resources previously spent on behalf of the community and EDF projects. As shown on my map right here, through rezoning of several project parcels, new solar design restrictions and constraints, and the addition of several new setbacks, the zoning laws proposed would restrict solar development on 75% of the land the projects proposed, affecting not only our landowners who's held contracts since as early as 2019, but also the economic benefits to the surrounding community as well. We value the communities where we choose to build projects, and we're committed to working together to make this project as beneficial as possible for all those impacted. Last week, I attended a wonderful scholarship event at SUNY Canton, where there were many remarks by the alumni speakers describing how the college has advanced and innovated in the pursuit of remaining in front of the curve for what the needs of tomorrow will require. Their ideals are evident to me everywhere in the Canton community and found in the town's community goals. For instance, Canton's own 2019 comprehensive plan outlines a desire to develop a strong, diversified, and sustainable local economy, which this project can help by providing meaningful funds to do so with a minimum of $24 million in estimated tax payments over its 35 years of life. In addition, the town is looking to increase resiliency, sustainability by promoting renewable energy and investing in emergency services, both of which our project has agreed to support. We believe our Ridge Road Solar project has, by collaboratively working with the town and community, remained ahead of the curve of what the town's needs are for tomorrow and into the future. By applying the proposed zoning law to our project, it hampers not just for the project team or the state in their review, but also in the town representatives and the community's goals with respect to the benefits from a project like this. With so much on the line, at a minimum, we feel that the town should delay a vote to adopt the law to allow for the appropriate diligence and consideration of these concerns and the impacts of the project. Please consider a request to consult with the project on proposed zoning so that we can continue to build on our collaborative foundation and work together to further harmonize the Ridge Road Solar Energy Center project in the Canton community. But more broadly, the town should consider whether or not the implications of proposed solar law changes is really what is intended here and the loss of potential economic opportunities that come with it. Thank you.
John, would you like to submit that statement?
Yeah, awesome to have.
We do have the letter. Well,
Just grab them already.
well, actually, if you have extra copies.
Sure do. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, no, prints are
Thank you.
expensive.
Thank you. So just, for the record,
Yeah.
Laura Darling did submit, a lengthy document to the, town clerk. Copies were emailed as well to the town board members, and our legal, team. So, that is also part of the record, Heidi. Okay. Okay,
Evening, my name's Barry Whiteford. I live right in the smack dab in the middle of that solar project. So this won't take a couple minutes. I was able to delete a couple things that they were covered pretty well. So go over it again. We are struggling to find any person that, with all the information that I've looked at, I think 2-3 different maps and a little bit of paperwork, I'm still struggling, and everyone else is, to give us 100% yes or no that the solar panels will be able to exist in the location we and EDF had planned. For what our community stands to gain from this project, I would have thought that the planning board and the town board would have been in close communication with EDF the entire way. This is all to do with the zoning. When zoning does happen, I'm hoping, my hopes for this, are that, the new proposals will allow the children and the grandchildren of the local corporate farmers the option of selling parcels someday to outside manufacturers and bring them into our community. No different than Corning or the jobs that EDF will offer. As our community is laid out right now, we're completely surrounded by corporate farm ground. There's little or no room for anything major to come into the area. So, to open up any kind of business that could employ, hundreds, if not thousands of people, it takes little room, but room is needed. So please consider this when you set up your zone. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Deb Bridges. Stiles, my husband and I own Maybridge Kennels in Canton. And I'm here to comment on section 7059 for kennels. And I've submitted my comments in writing in advance, but I'll just briefly cover them here. First of all, I just want to take note that the kennel and shelter uses were moved from permitted use to special use permit. And I can't really disagree with that. That gives the town planning board an extensive review in the process. And I do think that's important. I think by the items that are defined in a site plan review, it includes any substantial or undue adverse effects for all applications, all businesses and all uses. So that covers that point. The site plan review would also include the capacity of any project, kennel, business, restaurant. So it's included in that. To this end, subsection J that states that the planning board may limit the number of dogs kenneled or sheltered. I'm assuming sheltered will be removed as kennel and shelter are now two separate items. How would that number be arrived at? How would the planning board come to a capacity limit for a kennel? If a kennel operator is coming in or someone that wants to operate a kennel, I feel that would be part of the application and part of the site plan review. If it's contained in the zoning laws, it becomes enforceable. Who's going to enforce it? Whose job is it going to be to go count the dogs to make sure that the business is in compliance? I'm sure no one wants to do that. I feel it's sufficient to have it part of the review. The capacity maximum is set with the site plan review. And if the planning board feels that it's excessive or not enough, they can negotiate that in the review and approval process. The biggest concern we have is two sections that are G and I, both relate to noise and odor nuisances. One of the sections, they both relate to basically operating without creating noise or odor nuisance situations. One of the sections has been changed drastically from the earlier version that I have from February 2023. The wording that was added is vague at best. To say that a business is not going to create a noise nuisance that unreasonably interferes with the peace, comfort, and convenience of the neighbors. How is that going to be defined? Is that going to be defined by the planning board? Is that going to be defined by community members? There's a real risk to your businesses that operate in your town. Let's just say there are neighbors who feel their comfort is impacted at a very low, unmeasurable noise level. If those neighbors were to submit noise complaints and tickets were issued, could they then not go to the planning board and report that that business is out of compliance with this section based on maybe 20 some noise complaints? And couldn't they ask for that business's permit to operate to be revoked? This is a vague and unenforceable statement. It's addressed many times. Other businesses in other sections of the zoning laws have hours of operation to limit noise, and they generate noise during the day. Our compressors, our bars and restaurants, are they under scrutiny for noise that they generate during the day? It's a business, there is noise, and it clearly states throughout the zoning laws that the operators and owners should operate without creating a nuisance. Your businesses need support. We do provide jobs. We do provide sales tax. We do provide, for when we were operating the business over the course of 3 years, over 200 customers. Don't the customers in our community deserve to have their business and their boarding for their pets available? So I appreciate you reviewing those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Record, Heidi did receive a letter from Deb Bridges, today at 11:22 a.m. So that will become part of the record. Hi. Sure.
My name is David Huber. I think I know most of the people on the board. Mr. Tyler, you taught me gym at St. Mary's for I think 5 years. Mr. Brown, math twice. Judge, yeah, I did not do English twice. Judge Gustafson, I know you very well. Bob Santamore, I think I work with your wife at the county. Heidi, I see Mark almost every day. I guess I'm familiar with the opens meetings law, so I'll frame my comment in the form of a question.
You just have closer.
Sure.
The baby might grab the mic, but that's okay too.
Okay.
Okay.
Why is Canton, at least this is my understanding, so opposed to the Rich Road Solar project? If you pass the zoning proposal as it stands today, it's going to undermine a project which the town could benefit from for the next 40 years. I don't see any other industry moving into the area anytime soon, and the revenue, just the tax revenue for the town alone, could improve the pavilion, that's hockey equipment for the Canton team, if not the school taxes, desks, right? I mean, the solar project will have a direct impact on everyone's life in Canton in a good way. So I don't understand what the opposition is. And I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So if you were to pass the plan as it's proposed, we would eliminate this unique opportunity that Canton has for the next half century. I mean, I don't come to a lot of these town board meetings. This is actually my first one. I can't imagine they're this crowded all the time. That's just my guess. So the fact that there's so many people here, that should tell you something, that there's something up with the plan. And instead of just approving it with a stamp, what the planning board proposes, why not go back and do it the right way? Right? I mean, we have this opportunity now, or you do, to do right by Canton. So why not take that time? I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? I think almost, if not all of you, raised your kids in Canton. I know I grew up with some of them. I'm raising my kid in Canton now too. So it doesn't make sense to me to scuttle the Rich Road Solar project as the plan is written today. So why not send it back and redo it? Work out some kind of a deal that's beneficial for the town, the taxpayers, the school, and the people who are involved in the project. I mean, it's a deal, everyone can win in this. It doesn't make sense to me. That's all I got. I'm doing this off the cuff.
Thank you.
I don't have a written statement. I just made this up as I was.
Had a good
That's
teacher.
okay. This is case and we have it on record. So thank you.
Using that.
You have a beautiful baby. Other comment?
Margaret Mount, 33 James. It's been 224 days since No Dogs Left Behind came to Canton. In the code, you have In the new draft code, you have 8 pages on signage. And you have 0 pages on conditions or standards for a shelter. In Schedule A permitted uses, you have animal shelter needing a special use permit. I agree with that. But there's no conditions, or animal shelter is only mentioned as a definition. So I know at one point I suggested that you separate the 2 out, but if that isn't going to happen, I am suggesting that you add animal shelter to the standards and conditions for so 70-59, you add kennels and animal shelters, and that the wordage apply to both of them. So 70-59C, all kennel and shelter animals shall be kept within a totally enclosed, sound buffered building between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. And on E, I'm not sure, this is all outdoor pasture recreation areas shall be enclosed to prevent the escape of the animals. I'm not sure what is meant by outdoor pasture. Is this intended to mean that the entire perimeter of the property will be enclosed? So clarification is needed on that. All animal waste shall be regularly cleaned up and properly disposed of. Right now it states that the applicant shall submit evidence that waste can be properly handled and that adequate sewage facilities exist or will be provided for that purpose. I'm going to suggest that it say that adequate sewage facilities exist and will be provided for that purpose, and not make it a nebulous make it nebulous. So no excrement, this was added in the draft. No excrement, manure, or other odor or dust producing substance shall be stored or disposed of within 200 feet of any water well, waterway, stream, pond, ditch, lake, I would like, or wetland added to that. The applicant shall demonstrate a working plan to prevent or eliminate significant noise impacts from animals boarded and sheltered on the site. Noise generated shall not be excessive or persistently occurring or continue to such a degree or extent that it unreasonably interferes with the peace, comfort, or convenience of the neighbors. On I, the owner / operator of the kennel shall be responsible for exercising suitable control over the animals. I would like to suggest that it also say, if you are going to include the 2 together, that the owner operator of the kennel or shelter shall be responsible for exercising suitable control over the animals and not allow a nuisance. J, the planning board may limit the number of dogs that may be kenneled. I'm suggesting that it say the planning board shall limit the number of dogs that may be kenneled or sheltered to mitigate potential adverse impacts. I'm suggesting that there be added K. The owner operator of a kennel or shelter shall dispose of deceased animals in accordance with local and state laws and be able to show proof that an acceptable plan of disposal is in place and is being implemented. Records of deceased animals shall be kept and made available for review upon request. And add L, the applicant shall certify that their kennel or shelter is in compliance with all applicable local, state, and federal laws. I've also included alternate definitions for kennel and for shelter. The state has defined shelter with their new laws that are coming into effect in December 2025. And I'm suggesting that definition be used in our code. And that for a kennel, any structure or premises where animals are kept, boarded, bred, or trained for commercial gain, and where ownership of boarded animals is not transferred. And then I have reasons from pertaining to the definitions that have been proposed, and why I have some concerns with some of the wordings. And because in the kennel definitions, I find it confusing. A breeding, it's mentioned a breeding kennel or a boarding kennel. It says and a boarding kennel, but they are not the same. Boarding or breeding sounds like there is a choice on what kind of kennel a facility will be. I don't know if that was the intent. And then it would, pet breeders are governed by New York state law, and they sell animals. So this is not the case with a boarding kennel. And there are no New York state laws that govern boarding kennels. So it's important that the town have some laws that cover this. And the new law only covers animal shelters. So the code is the only entity that will determine regulation of kennels in the town of Canton. And because of the situation that the town is faced with shelter/rescues, kennels recently, it is important that the verbiage be clear without confusion and such that it will protect the town and affected neighborhoods for the future. So I'm suggesting a simple and direct definition: any structure or premises where animals are kept, boarded, bred, or trained for commercial gain, and where ownership of boarded animals is not transferred. And I will agree that as far as someone going in and seeing what's going on, that has been an issue. And I don't know how you correct that, but there's a lot going on that nobody knows. Thank you. Other comment?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having this hearing. My name is Eric Walter. I live at Birdsfoot Farm on 1263 in 25. So I want to thank everyone who spoke so far. A lot of really powerful comments about the effects this proposed change would have on landowner rights in the area, on jobs, on funding for the community. I want to speak a little bit from my particular perspective. I work as a doctor at Canton Potsdam Hospital, and I want to speak a little bit to the health effects of what we would be saying yes to as energy generation if we say no to solar with the proposed zoning change. So currently, the power generation mix in New York is about 45% natural gas. So in effect, if we block the solar generation, every megawatt, and there's a lot of them that this plant would be producing, we would instead be getting from natural gas, which is certainly, far from natural and far from a harmless substance. There's a recent study in Harvard Chan School of Public Health identified 21 different pollutants, many of them carcinogens, at sources of natural gas, both production and consumption: benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, hexane. These have numerous health effects. They can lead to renal dysfunction, asthma, from the burning of the natural gas. Gas leaks can cause, if people are exposed to them, they can cause reproductive harm, birth defects, hormonal disruptions, leukemia. There are many health effects have been linked to exposure to natural gases. So although it is the status quo and it's what we're using right now, it's certainly not harmless. And so I hope the zoning board will take that into account, that, we're not, if we do say no as a community to solar energy, the energy's got to come from somewhere. We got to keep the lights on, and the sources it's currently coming from in New York have known harms to the globe. And I didn't even mention actually, the global warming effects. Of course, burning natural gas, well known, creates methane gas, which is 80 times as potent a global warming chemical as carbon dioxide. So, it's creating harms to the globe and to the community on a health level. So I hope that the zoning board will take that into account in their decision. Thank you.
I just need to clarify, this is the town board, not the zoning board.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Brian Novak, current resident and aspiring landowner. I'd like to speak on the impact of the new zoning laws on agriculture. If we restrict solar within tiled fields, we completely inhibit any possibility of practices of regenerative agriculture, utilizing pasture side by side with a solar production. That's two streams of income for a future homeowner or landlord, or future homeowner or property owner that could both help reduce carbon emissions, reduce the impact on the reduce the impact on the current community, and also provide a lot of opportunity to find financial, sustainable, and proven ecologically sound resource utilization. My background's in natural resource conservation management, and I also spent time doing research in food systems. That is all. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Andy Smith, and I am here on behalf of No Dogs Left Behind. I am a former Canton resident. I grew up here, spent a lot of my youth here, and I got connected with the No Dogs Left Behind people, and they've asked me to speak on their behalf. So I thought I would come and speak about what I've learned about what they're doing over there and how the potential impact of the changes to the zoning law might affect or impact their business. So I'm specifically talking about the proposal for the changes to zoning law 7059. If you read the law, it seems to uniquely target the kennel property that used to be run by the Bridges, is now being operated by the No Dogs Left Behind people. It creates these impediments for improvements of property that are unique to kennels and nowhere exist to improving any other land structures, including farms, microbrews, and other properties that sort of have some of the similar or other noise-related issues that have been brought to the board's attention at this meeting and at others. It also creates this unwieldy oversight regime that almost creates a near daily review of what's going on at the property, including this new subsection I, which calls for ongoing suitable control over the noise and operation of the kennel business. And again, as Ms. Bridges spoke to, that seems sort of impossible to enforce, and it seems to overly emphasize concerns of what it seems to be a relatively limited fraction of the community without recognizing the importance of this business, which employs some of the people who have showed up here today, and including volunteers that were there. And I went over there today myself. And while I was there, the ARC community center, came over to visit, volunteered at the project, and it was just a nice thing to see that there is a business out there that is engaging employees, volunteers, and other sectors of the community. And my fear is that these proposals will hamper the business, the opportunity for this business to grow and to employ more people, and have more volunteers come out. I think the real risk of adopting 7059 is written is that it weaponizes the zoning regulations to codify grievances into law. And what it does is sort of creates a roadmap for someone who doesn't like what's going on in a neighboring property, sort of jump past their nuisance rights, which they're able to do. They can come and complain about a noise violation to the town court, and they can get their citation, and then the person has to come in and fight this. This creates an entirely separate and unique regime for them to come in and attack it through another way. And because this is the largest kennel in town, if it were successful in running the business out of town, there are, as Ms. Bridges spoke about, there are 200 people in this community and the surrounding communities who utilize this business for their dogs. There's really nowhere else for them to go. There are people who work there that would have to find new jobs. There are jobs and opportunities at this business that if the town were to give it a chance and if the neighbors were to give it a chance, I think it could create a very successful business for the town. And what Mr. Berry and the No Dogs Left Behind people are asking for is not to just leave them alone, as being suggested, is to create a more balanced approach to include the stakeholders, which are the clients, the employees, the owners, and other members of the community who have an interest in this ongoing business. They've already improved the property and utilized vendors and contractors from the community. They've spent thousands of dollars improving it. They're willing to do more. And that's a service to everyone involved in those sectors in the community that I think can't be discounted and allow for an overcorrection to sort of account for people who are concerned about noise versus all the other people who may not show up to these meetings and voice their support for this. I'm concerned that there's a bit of an overcorrection. What I would invite is a conversation rather than a regulation. I disagree with the notion that Mr. Berry is operating in a black box. He welcomes any visitors. If you call him up and send him an email, he would invite you to the property. He invited me. I took a tour today. What he's done to the property is pretty impressive, including the noise remediation that he's done to the property. He's put in wooden fences where there existed chain fences to try and tamp down the noise. He's put in tree structures. He's put in paneling indoors and outdoors to try and address what he believes are not unreasonable concerns of the neighbors. We're not, the No Dogs Left Behind group is not insensitive to the notion that kennels create noise. What they would prefer is that all sides meet and talk about ways that are reasonable to make sure that those concerns don't outweigh the need for this business to continue to operate in town and provide work and opportunities for people. That's all I have. Mr. Berry submitted a letter on behalf of No Dogs Left Behind. Free to reference that as well. I really appreciate your time, and it is a real trip and an honor to come back here and speak. Thank you.
For the record, a letter on behalf of Jeffrey Berry of No Dogs Left Behind in Maple Ridge Kennels today at 11:23. So Heidi has that already for the record report. Other comments?
My name is Bill Sweeney. I'm on the old Calbro. I'm the landowner that's got land in this solar project. I'd like to give my hearty agreement to what Andrea said and Jonathan said. In addition to that, I don't really believe that you made these changes in a as you said, in taking into account people's values and their needs.
why, if that were the case, why would you restrict my land just because it has tiles on it? Why would you have not said something to me about that? You seem kind of disingenuous to me. And I really think that what you're doing to EDF and doing to my retirement is beneath dignity for someone who sets themselves up as a public servant. Thanks very much.
I would like to add that I much rather see solar panels on tiled land and see sheep grazing than synthetic fertilizer, herbicide, and pesticide spread on tiled field that goes directly into our water because it's tiled. I think the solar panel is much better for our environment and our world.
Other comments? With that being said, as I mentioned when we opened this meeting, that the board has listened. We will take everything into account. And bring it back to committee. There's a lot to decipher here. There's a lot to think about. You know, I know for me, I haven't had a chance to read everything that has been submitted. There's some pretty lengthy letters, and I think the board would agree with me that we need time. And so, with that being said, I want to thank everybody on behalf of the town for being here. This is what process, and this is what, this is the, here to listen. And it'll go back to committee and legal for further consideration, and then we'll go from there. So with that being said, again, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I do need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any further discussion or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, and the meeting is adjourned.